In the early days of July 2025, a quiet apartment complex in Germany became the site of a tragedy that shook the Muslim community. Rahma Ayad, a 26-year-old nurse of Algerian descent, was found brutally stabbed to death in the stairwell of her building. She had been repeatedly harassed by a neighbor in the weeks prior to her murder, targeted for her hijab, her Arab background, and her Muslim identity. For many, Rahma's death was not just the result of a personal dispute or a random act of violence. It was the horrifying culmination of a growing wave of hate that has been spreading across Germany and much of Europe, a wave of rising Islamophobia that has gone far too long ignored. Rahma's story, tragically, is not unique. She was a dedicated healthcare worker, known for her compassion and commitment to her patients. Friends and colleagues described her as warm, hopeful, and always willing to help those in need. But in her final days, she had expressed fear. Neighbors later reported that she had been receiving verbal threats and strange looks, and some said she even contemplated moving. On the day of her death, she was ambushed and stabbed multiple times by the same neighbor who had been harassing her, someone who had reportedly made Islamophobic remarks before. The police initially treated it as an isolated incident, but public outcry quickly changed that narrative. Protests erupted across Berlin, Munich, and Frankfurt, with the Muslim organizations demanding recognition of the crime as a hate-fueled act. The German government, under pressure from activists in the Algerian embassy, was forced to acknowledge that Rahma's murder may have been driven by religious and ethnic hatred. But for many Muslims in Germany, this recognition came far too late. Data from watchdog groups showed that Islamophobic incidents in Germany rose by more than 60% between 2023 and 2024. Attacks ranged from vandalism of mosques, online abuse, hate speech in public spaces, and even physical violence against visibly Muslim individuals, especially women in hijab. In one study, Muslim women were found to be twice as likely to be harassed in public compared to other groups. For them, simply wearing a headscarf had become a daily risk. Islamophobia in Germany isn't new. It has been quietly growing for years, fueled by political rhetoric, media stereotypes, and narratives that frame Muslims as a cultural threat. After the 2015 refugee crisis, anti-Muslim sentiment spiked, with political parties like the AfD gaining support by campaigning on fear warning of a so-called Islamization of Europe. Though many dismiss these narratives as fringe, their impact has been real. Policies have been proposed to ban hijabs in schools and restrict Islamic religious practices. In some cities, mosques report receiving threats almost weekly, and across German society, studies show that many citizens hold subconscious bias against Muslims, associating Islam with violence, extremism, or oppression. What happened to Rahma Ayad is a direct result of this climate. When hate becomes normalized, when people are conditioned to view Muslims as outsiders or threats, it becomes easier for violent acts to occur without outrage. It becomes easier for neighbors to ignore harassment, for authorities to dismiss complaints, for victims to stay silent until it's too late. Ma's death is not just a personal tragedy, it is a social warning. The media coverage of her case also revealed another painful truth, that Muslim victims often go unheard unless the community demands justice. When Rahma was killed, mainstream news outlets barely covered the story. It was only after protests and international outcry that the headlines began to change. Why did it take that much pressure for her life to matter? Why is it that when Muslims are victims of hate, stories are often dismissed as isolated incidents, while entire communities are blamed when a Muslim commits a crime? These are the double standards that feed Islamophobia, not just in Germany, but around the world. There is also the psychological toll to consider. For Muslims living in Germany today, Rahma's murder sent a chilling message. Many women reported being afraid to wear the hijab in public. Parents began warning their daughters to avoid certain areas or to hide their religious identity. Some even considered leaving the country. These aren't abstract fears. They are real consequences of a system that fails to protect its minorities. And when a country fails to make its Muslims feel safe, it begins to lose the very fabric of pluralism and democracy it claims to uphold. But Rahma's story has also sparked a movement. Muslim organizations in Germany are now calling for legal reforms, demanding stronger protections against hate crimes, better reporting systems, and national campaigns to educate the public about Islam. There are calls for schools to teach about Muslim contributions to German society, for media to challenge harmful stereotypes, and for politicians to stop weaponizing religion for political gain. These efforts won't bring Rahma back, but they might prevent another tragedy. It is easy to feel powerless in the face of such injustice, but one of the most important ways to fight Islamophobia is to speak out, to tell the stories that others try to bury, to hold governments accountable when they fail to act, and to make it clear that Muslims are not strangers in Europe. They are nurses, teachers, artists, parents, and neighbors. They belong, can't, their lives matter. Rahma Ayad was only 26 years old. She should have been safe in her own home. She should have been protected by the society she served. Instead, she became a martyr of silence, a symbol of what happens when hatred goes unchecked. May her memory be a source of strength, and may her story never be forgotten. Please let us know in the comments if there is a specific story you would like us to cover in our next video. Until next time, my dear viewer,